You know, I love sports.
Love sports.
It comes Texas A&M.
We're getting this information. Welcome to TexAgs. We need to talk a little sports with you, Aggie. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Welcome back to TexAgs. I'm Liucci. Olin, Buchanan.
Make a mistake. We're not going anywhere. This is going to be a great program. We're building it great.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I stand by what we do and how we do it.
It's like fucking Texas A&M, man. Like
That's how you throw catch combo as there is.
For the 60-year-old shot fade, I knew where I needed the ball.
You have no other option but one hand.
Yeah, man. 50-50 ball, I got him down.
Hi, my name is David Nuño, TexAgs Radio.
welcome in, everybody. TexAgs Radio. Hopefully, I'm not choppy on the air. Presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Olin Buchanan to my left.
Yes, I am here.
You are here. I'm David Nuño. Some technical difficulties sometimes happen.
Boy,
It's all right.
that was like the mother of technical
It was fun.
difficulties.
I like it. See? We don't get mad.
Not anymore.
I mean, not that. I
not
love to
after
get
a
mad.
win.
No. Look, I understand message board culture, right?
Okay.
Message board culture, and this is for a little particular tweet that I saw that caught my attention from somebody who's actually always been very nice to me. But message board culture, and I don't know if you know this, OB, but I've worked in different markets before, as you have, right?
Mm-hmm.
Fans find reasons to be excited, and fans find reasons to be upset. That is called being a fan, right? Oh my God, we can't score. We're the worst team ever. The game just started, bro, and then vice versa. We scored. We're going to go 18-0, even though there's 17 games, whatever it may be, right? Like that is called fandom. But I will never apologize, and I started the Luchador with it yesterday, and I'll try to change it up a little bit, for a pretty dominant performance where, yeah, we saw some places they got to fix, and yeah, Auburn's terrible. But in the SEC, you dominate the way A&M did defensively, and your backup quarterback comes in a 3-point game where the other team gets the ball at the half. Buddy, I'll take a 17-point win that should have been a 34-3 win.
Well, that's it right there. I think A&M could have. I think the final score should have been something like 40-10, because Auburn did have a guy wide open on a coverage bust by A&M, and their quarterback missed the thorn. He missed it as bad as anybody could ever miss an open receiver. But that's, to me, that's the frustrating part, is you could have won that game could have been over
At
half, or at the very least midway through the third quarter, and instead you're feeling a little bit anxious there in the fourth quarter, right at the beginning of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, well, look, A&M soccer yesterday loses a game that I think they should have won, and when you don't capitalize on opportunities, especially against good teams, Auburn, not a good team. The Arkansas that they played last night, a very good team. When you don't capitalize and you keep teams around, they find ways to beat you. And that's what I was worried about in that game against Auburn. But no, sir, the defense, who we have gone after on several occasions, they were the story. I mean, Max Johnson was a story, and the defense was 7 sacks.
7 sacks. I never saw that coming. And apparently neither did Peyton Thorne.
No.
They were a thorn in his side.
Or Robbie Ashford.
Well, they were on the side of Thorne all day. But see, David, now I'm going to be that guy.
And I'm going to argue with you. Let's go.
Okay. I'm that guy that says, I watched Auburn just be so inept and pull out a win over a bad Cal team.
Yep.
So, and then I see A&M, again, with the chance to win this like 40-10, maybe worse. And the same kind of mistakes that you made against Miami resurface. I'm talking about you're going in for a score and a guy false starts. How many freaking false starts over the last couple of years? At some point, why does this kind of thing continue to happen?
You know what I'll respond to that with, OB? Last year, against that same Auburn team, you couldn't move the ball at all with Connor, with your guys. And this year, you move the ball. Yeah, look, there are issues.
Last year's Auburn's defense was a lot better than this year's Auburn's defense, but go on.
Well, Their offense was, I would say that they probably have a better quarterback this year than they had, because I think Peyton Thorne is better than Robbie Ashford.
Well, so does
Hugh
Freeze.
Yeah, and they have a better coach, a better play caller.
Well,
okay.
yes, but definitely better coach for Auburn.
So I'm of the opinion, until I get overruled, that DJ Durkin outcoached Hugh Freeze.
Well, DJ Durkin certainly had more to work with. Okay, because what would I say last week? And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here, but A&M's defensive line littered with 4- and 5-star guys, or 5-star guys.
Yep.
Auburn's offensive line, group of 5 guys, almost like the Burgers. You know, you had the East Carolina transfer, the Tulsa transfer, the Western Kentucky transfer. If you can't win that matchup, offense versus, when are you going to? Now, what DJ Durkin did, that he was aggressive.
Yeah, I like that.
I haven't seen that.
I love it.
He was bringing, you know, who led the in sacks? Edge Cooper with 2. Chris Russell came on, had 1.5, so they were getting their sacks from their linebackers. They were bringing linebackers.
Walter Nolan, 1.5 sacks. Chris Russell, 1.5 sacks. Edge Cooper, 2 sacks.
Right, so they had 7 sacks. Well, I think 4 of them involved linebackers. Okay, so I'm getting he was aggressive. He was going for great. I applaud that. Now, is it because he's kind of changing his philosophy, or is it because he was thinking, well, the Auburn receivers aren't that great, and I don't know if their quarterback can get on the ball anyway, so I feel more confident about blitzing. But when I'm playing a better quarterback like KJ Jefferson, I'm going to be not as brave about bringing a linebacker. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. We got Chili, who's actually a loyal listener, very nice guy, who is an LSU supporter, but I think he's in the area. And he says, Nuño, great win by the Aggies, but you did discredit the LSU win against Mississippi State because you said they weren't that good. But good morning, Ags. I don't remember ever discrediting LSU. LSU is probably the best team in the West, which isn't hard to, but I think A&M's got a chance.
Well,
and they beat them last year, by the way.
Yes.
A bad A&M team, a really bad, embarrassed LSU.
All right.
That's how I'm discrediting them. This year, LSU gets embarrassed by Florida State, has come back and looks great. A&M has a lot to prove. LSU doesn't have as much to prove as A&M. A&M's got to prove it this week against Arkansas.
They do.
And I think they will. But that matchup does concern me, because I think we saw a better Arkansas team that's not going to play with their backs against the wall. People use that line, but like their season's on the line this weekend, right?
Yeah. Plus, they always play well for A&M. And hey, but Chili, by the way, like your opinion, love your dogs, but I think going back to the A&M, here's the deal with, at least for me, I'm still looking for A&M to play at a championship level against. And I don't feel like, they won easily, but I don't think they played at a championship level against what I think is a bad SEC team.
Let me ask you this. Had that touchdown for Edge Cooper counted, would you change your opinion?
No. Here's what I'm basing it on. And by the way, I thought it should have been a touchdown. Here's what I'm basing it on. I'm basing it on you scored 27 when you had this chance to score 40 plus. I'm talking about having 1st and 10 at the 12 and getting a false start. And so then you have a 7-yard gain. I got 2nd 8 at the 10, and I get another false start. I'm talking about you're at the 33 and you're driving. You got a first down. You lose a fumble that goes all the way for a touchdown. I'm talking about after you settle for 2 field goals, 6-0 lead, you have 3rd and 2 and can't pick it up.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 2 big plays that looks like they're going to get you a possible touchdown when the game's in doubt, and you get penalties on both of them to negate it. To me, that's not championship level football.
This is not a championship level team yet.
And why isn't it? You've got as much talent as anybody. If the Aggies beat Arkansas this week, I think that absolutely shows that they have the absolute ability to win the West, because I watched Arkansas come within an eyelash of beating LSU in Death Valley.
We watch A&M with this microscope. Do you think they're not having similar conversations at Alabama, at Ole Miss.
I don't care what they're having at Alabama and Ole Miss. Alabama has won a championship recently. A&M, we've been hearing about how good it's going to be for a decade. Okay, and I keep saying win.
Man, I feel like you're getting worked up after a 17-point victory. Where I agree, there are some issues, no doubt. There are some issues, but there's a lot. I mean, some of the big things that have plagued this team, they've got to score when they start off games, not threes, sevens. They've got to. They have to. You're exactly right. But this team has gone and fixed some major issues, like getting to the quarterback. They got 7 yesterday or Saturday. They had 6 coming into it. That again. There are some positives that are developing.
There are.
I think again with their backup quarterback, there's a lot to be excited about. Do I think that this is a championship level team yet? No. Beat Arkansas, I'm starting to believe a little bit more. Beat Alabama, I'm all in. Let's go to Tennessee. Let's go to Neyland Stadium and beat that.
But what I'm saying is, what I've seen from this team is, I don't know that they can beat Arkansas because how frequently, not because of the talent level, you have more talent than them, but just how frequently you do things. Jimbo likes to call it, shooting themselves in the foot. They should have no toes. They shoot themselves in the foot so often. They should have no feet. So when are you going to stop doing that? And look, yes, it was a good win, but I don't go to a fancy steakhouse and am satisfied after the salad. Give me the big meal, the meat and potatoes, and I know it's coming right now, but at this point, I don't know if that steak's not going to be tough as a boot.
Maybe my expectations are different.
You think?
I think so. Because I think they're trending in the right direction. They've got to clean up some stuff, or they will be that team. And again, I use the Florida documentary as an example because they made stupid mistakes in that season too. Fix those mistakes, make your life a lot easier, no doubt.
Okay, when are you going to fix them? And you're right. You're right. That's what I'm saying. That's the frustration with me. You lost the Miami game because of the silly mistakes that you shouldn't make. You kept Auburn in the game. Auburn didn't stay in the game. You kept Auburn in the game because of your silly, stupid mistakes that you make over and over and over again.
But then when the second half started, they did step on their throats.
For a while, and then they stepped right off of it. You gave them you gave up a fumble, and it went for a touchdown. All of a sudden, it's a game again. And then, like I said, you had a couple of plays where you had big plays, and you got penalties on them. And then Auburn looked like they might drive, and then you did have a defensive stop to put an end to that, and then the long run finally nailed it down.
Chase in Houston says, OB is loading up, so I'm taking my time.
Okay.
Apparently OB has never had the big salad to satisfy him. The big salad.
I've had a big salad, and it was satisfying, but not at the steakhouse. It's the appetizer.
Right.
That's an appetizer against Auburn.
All right. Let's do this. Let's open up the phone lines. How do you guys feel about that win? Are you on Team OB or Team Nuño? I like it. I mean, this guy's worked up. They won by 17. Just wait if we win on a nail biter. You can call us or text us 979-693-1150. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. So OB, on Friday night, I don't get out very much, but my wife had a work event at Century Square. Is that what it's called? Is that what it's called, Jared?
That's what it's called, yeah.
And I'm there, and it's a who's who. Freaking Jamie Morrison's there. Apparently, Coach G was there. A lot of coaches apparently were there. And then I look on stage, and I see this young man performing some Zach Bryan out there. And I told my little daughters, or my daughter Annalise, who was there with me, I was like, I know that kid. She's like, no, you don't. I go, he's my intern. And what did he say out to the public? He said, my boss is here. Jared, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, David. I was surprised to see you there. I'm not going to lie, but
I was looking for you at Northgate. I told you I was going.
I was not there.
I was partying
definitely
late.
not there.
So you're a singer, huh?
Yeah, I do a little bit of guitar and singing, yeah. It's a good time. I'm trying to get better at it, but it's been fun.
Nice job. You had a big crowd there for you, too.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and I got to play some for Mr. Country Music over here,
Thank you. He did announce me to the public as Mr. Country Music.
That's awesome.
Which, I mean,
you're welcome, David.
people were like, I knew that was that guy.
They did not know that. No,
Yeah,
they did
no,
not.
there was some taps on the shoulder.
Nobody knew that. Get off your high
There were
horse,
people
David.
tapping. They didn't say, hey, you're the dude from TexAgs. You go, hey, aren't you Mr. Country Music? I was like, actually, I am. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly what happened.
I remember that convo.
On a different note, Aggie volleyball, they're now 9-3 on the season and 1-1 in conference play. On Sunday, they ended up losing in 4 sets to number 16 Arkansas, and then they move on to play number 3 Florida in Gainesville on Wednesday. And then Aggie soccer, they fell to number 11 Arkansas 1-0 despite outshooting them 16-9 in the matchup. And they'll go on to play Ole Miss Friday at Ellis Field. And then on another note, Devon A-Chain, what a day.
Whoa! I mean, that could have been the lead today, buddy.
What a day. I mean,
Oh, wait, can you do
what
that
a
look again?
career day.
I just watched Boys in the Hood again. You're doing the doughboy look like.
I am kind of a doughboy. But how many times did
You
I
got a problem
say
here?
that A-Chain was the first-round talent and best running back they've ever had here? I believe that, considering the caliber of defenses he was going against and how little help he had. Just an amazing player.
Imagine had he stayed. Oh, my gosh. Oh, my gosh.
Amazing player. We never got to appreciate the full greatness of Devon A-Chain.
Jared, one more?
A-Chain rushed for 203 yards, 2 touchdowns, caught 4 passes for 30 yards and 2 touchdowns. So 4 total touchdowns, and they won 70-20. There's really nothing else to say. I mean, he already leads all rookie running backs in rushing yards and touchdowns despite only playing in 2 games. And one of the games, he only had like 1 carry. So that game was just monstrous. So
Yeah, I think they're going to give him the ball more.
Well, let's do this. Let's hit a break. There's a lot of commentary out there, all right? And Chili's on your team. He's like, you need to give that speech to the Aggie football team. But I'm happy about the win. Yay, give me a hug. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, we're going to go over the 3 things that we talked about on Friday that we wanted to see, how close we got. Plus, we'll go through the turning point. I'm sure you got 1 or 2 that we can get into. Right now, let's hit a break. Before that, Fargo's time. Obi, I got a plan.
What's the plan?
So, on Thursday, I believe, we're headed to DFW for the Arkansas game. We'll do our show there from Friday. What do you think about a work meeting on the way there at Fargo's?
I'm all for it.
Yeah?
On a Thursday?
On a Thursday? Is that pork chop?
That's pork chop.
Is that macaroni and cheese?
It's both of them.
Oh, buddy. Macaroni and the cheese?
And the cheese.
But seriously, let's have a real meeting, right? We'll actually plan out Friday's show. We'll talk. We'll make it like a work thing.
Yeah.
If any other TexAgers are there, we'll say, hey, we could share. We could do like family-style food. Nah, probably not. I don't want to do that there. But great food at Fargo's, huh?
It is. And I'll look forward to that on Thursday.
I've done this
but I would
to you.
look forward tomorrow.
I've done this to you before. Hey, let's go to lunch, and then I go to sleep.
Yeah.
There's no going to sleep now because I'm driving.
Okay.
I'm driving us to Fargo's.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
All right, I'm ready.
Farguitos.
I can't wait.
And then if we want to go tomorrow, I mean,
Then we can get the rib tips.
We could get
and if they're pork ribs. And if you ever wanted to get rib tips, wouldn't it be this week when the Razorbacks are on the menu coming
You know what?
up?
That's probably why we need to go to Fargo's.
Yeah. And that's, a pork chop. So start your weekend to chop up the hogs by having a pork chop.
Yep. Fargo's has been around this community for 22 years. They're at 1701 South Texas Avenue in what?
In Bryan, Texas.
Oh, thank you. And without a doubt, they are the what?
They're the best barbecue in Texas, i.e. the best barbecue in the world.
That is true. That's their trademark because it's...
It is true.
Your name is OB?
It is.
That's true.
Too.
That's true, too.
The initials, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's Fargo's. Go check it out. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. Maroon never looks so good with Maroon. You, David Nuño, Olin Buchanan with you. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Had a great time doing the show from there. By the way, OB, a lot of commentary on your shorts.
I know what.
Well, I don't know if like the goods were on display or not, and then my tight pants. Those were my yoga jeans that people were talking about.
Well, first of all, I didn't know what the layout was going to be.
Right.
I didn't, but the shorts.
Yeah. I don't know. People just like to talk.
Yeah, that's all.
And then others like to stir it up and
Yeah, just get my name
whatever.
right.
Just all I ask is for just be careful.
And then
because I will Google everybody who talks smack, and I will look up every pic ever posted. Ever.
And then people ragging on me about my shirt that I wore on the Feinbaum show Friday.
What'd you wear?
It was just
That was a humble brag, by the way. Nice job.
It was a TexAgs polo shirt.
Next time you
And
do
that was
Feinbaum.
a medium. It's not. It was a large.
People say that because they want the guns.
And I was sweating like crazy.
This is a fact. Nobody who has guns talks about schmediums. That's a fact.
Huh.
They respect. Game recognizes real. Game recognizes game.
I don't know that wearing small shorts is necessarily game, David. But
I didn't say shorts. I was talking shirts.
I know. Okay, sorry, small shirts. My bad.
Who said small? Just fitted.
Yeah. I'm so
But
fat.
it's fitted,
I make
not
a
small.
large look like a medium.
No, fitted fits. Small shows your belly button. That's small.
Okay.
All right, I'll give it to you.
Thank you. See, I win these arguments. And if you're one of those people talking smack, don't worry. I have Googled you, and I've done it in front of people here. Continue on. Let's get some text messages in.
Tony in Skidmore says, "OB, can we have one day where you are not negative?"
You know what, Tony? Cheers.
Yeah. If if you don't like reality, right? If you want to live in an alternate
reality is we won by 17 points.
All right, is that the goal here?
To win every game by 17, yes.
Well, the spread was 7.5. We beat the spread by 10 points. Well, I feel like that's not terrible. Is Auburn good? And did they have good quarterback play? No.
They're worse than I thought.
They were bad.
I'm just saying that I'm asking myself, when is A&M going to play not good enough to beat a bad opponent, but championship level football? That's all I'm asking for.
What else, Jared?
Then we got one from 432 says the Aggies are going to clean up this weekend with little Johnson & Johnson, not the shampoo, but big completions on third down and a couple touchdowns from Max to Jake. Chad and Odessa.
Hey,
I'm going to tell you, it's the first time I've seen 50-50 love on OB. Because there's some people who are buying your big salad.
Yeah.
Randy, who's a huge supporter of the show. You know, we're big friends with Randy. Olin was complaining about the pass rush last week. Now he's complaining about something else. Never satisfied.
Well, I'm hoping for a championship level football team.
River Kid 2006. OB's a man. He's 60.
The 61 actually, but okay. I know he's doing the Gundy.
Yeah, and somebody says people are missing the point of OB's rant. Your point is, if you want to play championship level football, you have to clean up these mistakes, and that I can agree with. I think we all can agree with. You can't have these dumb offsides. You can't have them. You just cannot have them.
But they keep happening.
They do keep having them. So how do you fix it?
I don't know, because it hadn't been fixed for 3 years.
So I guess that's a question for Jimbo today. Let's try to get one more, Jared, shall we?
Yeah, we got Bosis from Katie is agreeing. She says, I'm with Olin on this. When are we going to have a disciplined team that do not shoot themselves in the foot? For 6 years, we've been seeing the same thing, and at some point, we ought to be at the level every year we're competing for a championship.
And you know what? Maybe that game is going to come Saturday where, you're not having to settle for field goals because you're jumping off sides or because somebody's missing. Your quarterback and receiver's not on the same page on 3rd and 2 or all these different. You're just going to play a clean game. That's what the word you use. And if you go out and here's what I think. I think if A&M goes out and plays a clean game, there's not – people say, the Aggies show they can compete. BFD, big fat deal. Compete. I don't want a team that just competes. I want to see a team that goes out and wins, and you have the personnel to do that. So
A&M is 116th in the country at penalties. In a bad way, I guess 7.8 per game in 2023. Arkansas, by the way, who they're playing this
they're
weekend,
terrible in penalties.
9.7.
Yeah, they've had some real trouble with penalties.
Neon Dion in Colorado, Coach Prime, 9.3. Just a little snapshot of where we are. LSU, the team that A&M is chasing in the West, only 4.3 per game. Texas, 4.3 as well.
It's not even the penalties that drive me crazy. It's when they occur and what they are.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, DeMontre Moore going to join us.
Okay.
Let's talk to DeMontre. He's going to give us some observations. We'll follow it up. At some point, we'll go through the 3 things that we wanted to see how we did there, plus more of your text messages at the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Right now, we are talking about the Charge Apparel. Good clothes there. You know, had I worn my Charge Apparel shirt on camera, the tight jean conversation would have stopped. It would have been like, look at the shirt. Yeah, it's not too tight. It's not too loose. Slightly fit. It's the right way to do it. They do it through the chest and arms there. Premier fabric, lightweight, slightly tailored fit throughout that chest and arms, designed to make you look and feel your absolute best. There are a couple of Aggies out there. They love A&M. They love this community. They love Aggie football. We're talking about the good dudes there, Travis and Tucker over there, who met in the Corps class of 2014. Afterwards, they go to the U.S. Army. That's where Travis was commissioned to the Air Force. Tucker went to the Army. Afterwards, they started the Charge Apparel, where 12% of total sales, not just profits, donated to veteran nonprofit partners with a focus on a mental health initiative. An ode to the 12th man, without a doubt. And they may be in Austin, operating behind enemy lines, but they love College Station and this community. Both owners graduated in 2014. Check them out at thechargeapparel.com or find them on Instagram, The Charge Apparel, or Twitter, X, also The Charge Brand. OB sounds like me this morning. Like my boys cut the yard, and they did a great job. Except they forgot to blow, the grass out, and some of it was getting in the pool. And they did a great job cutting the yard. The edging was nice. Everything was on point. But I got very upset because you didn't blow the grass out, guys. You didn't finish the job. I think A&M finished the job this weekend, OB.
Okay.
They got to get better, but they finished the job.
Yes, it was like mowing the lawn, but leaving the clippings on the yard.
Yep. But they did a great job on the lawn. We just, blow it away. Let's go to the hotline, talk to DeMontre Moore. DeMontre, help us out here, man, because, look, I know that there are some issues they got to fix, but I was very happy with the victory. OB wants to see championship-level football every snap. So what was your take?
Yeah, DeMontre, you watched the game. Did you think they played at a championship-level performance?
Howdy, first and foremost.
Howdy.
And if we're being honest, I think I'm split right in the middle of both of y'all's decision. I'm very happy with the play that we had going into SEC play. Anytime we can get a SEC win is great. We know how rare those come, especially in a tough division like this. But I kind of side more so with Obi. I was talking to my brother, Jonathan Hood, this morning. And when we were talking about the game, I was trying to view it from a fan's perspective, an analyst perspective, and then a former player's perspective. And he had to tell me, like, hey, get out of that player's perspective because we played phenomenal defense. When I say phenomenal, this probably might be the best defensive play I've seen since I've been there. They had 112 total yards of offense going into halftime. The third quarter, 114 yards, and then going into the fourth quarter, I believe they had less than that. Shoot, they had less than the former great Texas A&M Devon A-Chain. Shout out to him and the Dolphins for what they did with his 244 some yards. They didn't even have that, so that speaks volumes to our defense. But to get back to Obi's point of saying that this wasn't championship defense, it wasn't, because there were little bitty things that were going on. Auburn missing some passes, guys running wide open. And even with those guys running wide open, those are a testament to our D-line. They had pressure. They exploited the holes into them. And it was so many things. But like a player and a coach say, it's never as bad as you think it is, and it's never as great as you think it is. It's time to go back in there, get to the film, and figure out how we can fix this for later on down the line when we're trying to play championship football against the Alabama, the LSUs. Like, those little details is what's going to win us those championships. And once we get those fixed, oh man, it is about to be scary, the potential that we can have. And I think we're finally getting there. Like, we're on the rise. We're on the rise right now. We're like gas prices. We're constantly going up, and we just need to keep going up. Don't plateau too early.
You're talking OB's language.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, you are. Hey, let's get into your 5 observations, shall we?
Yes, sir. Observation number 1, we got the win. That was amazing. I think this year we showed a lot of resiliency, and what we've been wanting ever since dating back to the Coach Sumlin era. We always said that, hey, we had the potential, we could do this and do that. But every time that we got punched in the mouth, we didn't truly handle adversity the right way. And I think when thinking back to my time when I was there with Coach Sherman, that was the one thing that he always harped on: handling adversity. Even when it's going good, something's going to happen. And when that weird thing happened, we're going to be able to handle it. And it got a little sticky this weekend. Even with the defense playing as great as they were, even with the offense eventually catching fire, we were in that little hot, uncomfortable zone. And when I tell you that it looked like the fellas sat in there, they said, hey, man, we've been here before. This is Texas. We're used to this. Pressure bust pipes or make diamonds. Let's go out there and show them the diamond that we are. And we were able to go out there and do that. So that would be my first and most important key observation, is handling that resiliency. Yeah. If we're going to go to observation number 2, the second thing and most important thing, the boat only goes as strong as its captain. And right now, the captain at the helm's Max Johnson with me, y'all. Can we say it again? Max Johnson.
Max Johnson. Sorry, we had to
hey,
the team.
Way to come in there and do what you do. And that our hat goes off to Jimbo Petrino and the whole Texas A&M staff. This shows, and this is a testament of how deep our quarterback room is. If Connor wins the Miami game, doesn't get hurt, we're easily talking about him and having him in the conversation with the Caleb Williams and the other top Heisman candidate. But unfortunately, he got hurt. And then when he got hurt, we had another guy come in, Max Johnson. Say it again. Y'all are going to know this man's name. The blue chip caliber that he has with his dad taking his team to the Super Bowl, his mom being a former Division One volleyball stud who arguably some people on the threads are saying she's the better athlete out of all of them. So him having that and him coming in cool as a cucumber and taking the helms and saying, let's ride and let's get this thing out, man, my hat goes off to him. And then he even has the best thing, which is the most important thing, a little brotherly love. Shout out to him and his brother with the TV connection over there. I text David during the middle of the game and I'm like, yo, Max Johnson, hey, I'm loving everything I'm seeing for him. No slack to Connor. I was loving everything I was seeing for him. But also with that being said, and this brings me to my third point, the coachings. I love what Petrino and Jimbo did in there. They didn't rush Max out before the halftime. Yes, Connor got injured. It was like, hey, let's get in here and let's take our time. Let's try to throw him in there to go get some points before halftime. Let's evaluate the situation. They went in there, they evaluated the situation. And those two coaches, between both of them, all the experience, you've seen it coming out in the first half. I don't know if they tried to make the West Coast offense work and it was very complicated, but I'm going to bring it back to something that's so simple and that's near and dear to me. The best defenses that I have played and been a part of, those coaches kept the KISS mentality. Keep it simple. And we know what the last S stands for, but we're not going to insult anybody. So it's KISS with one S. Just keep it simple. Not keep it simple, stupid, but just keep it simple. Because as intricate as it can be, also less is more. The best defense that I feel that I was a part of was the San Francisco defense, where we went to the Super Bowl. We had maybe about 5 to 6 plays. And out of those 5 to 6 plays, the defensive line was doing the same thing in, day out. We knew our scheme. The linebackers knew what they were doing. We ran simple coverages. And if you don't have to think a lot, it's like the old saying goes, you see a lot, you see a little. You see a little, you see a lot. And if you can be comfortable in it, Michael Strahan told me a long time ago, when I pass rush, I only need 2 moves. I need my strong move and my counter move. Everybody can have all these tools in their toolbox, but if I got this best tool, if I got a great flathead screwdriver that can work on Phillips, but also do this, then why would I switch it out? And that's what we did. We went back to the basics. And when we went back to the basics, they slowed down. They let Max get in there, get a small completion, build up his confidence. So by the end of the game, man, I thought it was November. The way this man was out there carving turkey, I'm like, hey, where's my gravy? Put it right here. He dropped that long, deep ball right there into the honey pot to Evan Stewart for the touchdown. That is the stuff that scouts are dreaming of. And if we can keep this going with all the offensive weapons that we're going to have, it is going to be amazing. So Jimbo, Petrino, keep doing everything that y'all are doing. And then when we're going to bring it to the fourth point, and 4 is my favorite number, so I had to put this observation right here. Shout out to the defensive line. We played wrecking crew football. This is what I'm talking about. Finally, everybody looked like the 5 stars and the 4 stars that they were coming in and having all the hype. Man, I love every one of them. Shamar Turner, number 10, Mountain McKinley. Everybody was humming, but most importantly, who stuck out to me the most was 10. He was back there making plays left and right. And even if he wasn't making the plays, he was causing so much disruption to where the other guys can make the plays. And that's what was happening back in the day. The year 2013, when I led the nation in TFLs and sacks, people gave me the credit, but there was other people that were flying back there, from Spencer Neely, Sean Porter, Jonathan Stewart. And right now, that's what's going on with these guys. The D line was humming, and I need them to keep humming. I don't need flashes. I don't need none of that. I want us to build off of this momentum, so keep humming. And this is they made Terry Price proud this weekend. But if Terry Price was up there grilling like I know he was like, get off the ball. This is what I'm talking about. This is SEC ball, fellas. They embodied that envision in him. And so I am so grateful. And my heart was so warm that they did this. And I'm so excited about this defense. And my fifth observation would be, go out there and do it again.
Yeah.
Like the observation, can we have that consistency? that consistency to build and not start out slow, but have the snowball effect and building that momentum. Because at the beginning of the game, it started out a little shaky, but once we started going with the momentum, we started cooking with grease. And next thing you know, we had a fish fry out there. The defense was hunting, the offense was scoring, and it was SEC caliber football. So shout out to my Aggies. With all that being said, we did a lot of things phenomenal. We did some things very good. There are some things that we can fix. And if we fix those little bitty things, nobody can touch us. It's our time.
DeMontre, appreciate it, man. Montreal behind you looks great. That's Montreal, right?
Yes, sir. Downtown Montreal. I wanted to give y'all a bit of the skyline. Hey, hardly home, but I'm always repping. Even all the way up here, baby. I can get my Aggies.
You got it, man. I'll talk to you later on this week, all right?
Yes, sir. Thanks again.
Gig 'em.
All right,
DeMontre
over.
Moore. See you, bro. Love talking to DeMontre. We were going back and forth on text during the game. He was all in on Max, as you could tell. It was good.
Well, should have been. Max played great.
Max did play great. All right, we'll come back with the turning point. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. That's Chance McClain's company. The website is yourheritagefilm.com, where they make documentary films about your family, your parents, your dad, your uncle, your boss, even the younger ones, right? Or maybe for a family party, right? Thanksgiving's coming up. Maybe you have Chance and his crew out there, have a little setup at the corner of your house while you're having your dinner. They're getting some shots, and then they interview people at the side to kind of tell your family story, maybe your family ranch, your family business, whatever it may be. We've done it. It was fantastic. It's just an incredible investment, because this is the kind of investment that will stand the test of time for the generations to come, so they can see how your family was started and all the awesome stories behind it. And then if you want to do one for the younger ones, they do the year flicks, 20-minute video as opposed to the 2 hours. And they're more Q&A style for the kids, kind of a benchmark video to see where they're at. Check it out. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. yourheritagefilm.com. 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341 is Heritage Films. little off here on TexAgs. This morning we had some technical difficulties, so it's time for Around Aggieland, presented by Normandy State Bank. Normandy State Bank, rock solid banking. Website normandystatebank.com. K. Nigley.
Hey, not to sway the conversation away from Aggie football, but y'all see any NFL storylines over the weekend about a certain celebrity being at a game?
Travis Kelce did play. I saw that he did
right.
play. Yeah, he played. He was injured a couple weeks ago. Patrick Mahomes played too. You know.
I'm offended by watching the highlights, and they're going with that. Who cares?
She cares.
If you want to put that on People magazine, that's one thing. But my highlights, I don't care. I care if he scored a touchdown, not if he scored with Taylor Swift.
I think it's pretty cool if he does.
All right.
To be honest, if he does it, props.
Anyways, had to bring that up.
I
Sorry,
knew
that was,
you would.
That was the storyline of my day yesterday, along with Devon Achan, of course.
Welcome back to The View. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I have to bring the teenage drama around here. Anyways, back to Aggie football. Texas A&M's defense shined on Saturday. As the Fighting Texas Aggies are now 1-0 in the conference. Just reading off some stats, Max Johnson went 7 for 11, 123 yards with 2 touchdowns. Le'Veon Moss, 15 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. Anaya Smith, 78 yards on 5 catches. How about the freshman, Torian York, 11 tackles, credited with a half sack and 2 tackles for loss. And then Edrin Cooper, 8 tackles, 2 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. How about that?
I like it. I love it. Talked to Edge yesterday. That dude was balling. Let's go.
Yes, he was. Have some different news. Some former A&M basketball player Dexter Dennis was finalized to the Dallas Mavericks training camp roster. On Friday, they announced the signing of Dennis, bringing their roster to 21 players. Heck of we love to see that. Good Aggie right there.
Yeah, OB and I watch a lot of Mavericks because doesn't Quinn watch the Mavericks?
My son's a big Mavericks fan.
I watch a lot of Dallas Mavericks. I love Luka and Mr. Cuban. Continue on.
Unfortunately, Arkansas got the best of 2 Texas A&M teams this weekend. Hopefully, that doesn't happen this upcoming weekend, as Texas A&M volleyball unfortunately fell to number 16 Arkansas on Sunday. They will stay on the road as they travel to Gainesville, Florida to face the Gators this upcoming Wednesday. That first serve is set for 6 p.m., so hopefully Jamie Morrison and co can get back on track. And then A&M soccer also came up short against the number 11 Arkansas Razorbacks on Sunday as well. They, however, will return to Ellis Field for Friday's 7 p.m. match with the Ole Miss Rebels.
Thank you very much, Kay.
Yes, sir.
OB, we got like a minute. What was your turning point?
Turning point for me came about a little more than 5 minutes left in the game. Auburn's at the A&M 33, looking at a third down, and had a holding penalty. Jimbo took the penalty, which a lot of coaches wouldn't do, to push them out of field goal range, because if they get a field goal when Alex McPherson can certainly make it, it would have been a 1-score game. Instead, they get to stop, and they have to punt. Auburn has to punt. A&M gets a long run and then scores, but and puts it away. But it starts with them taking that taking that penalty and pushing them out of field goal range.
My turning point, that's a great one, by the way, and I agree with you. My turning point, though, was the start of the second half. Auburn has a chance to take the lead. 3 and out. They lose 9 yards on that drive. A&M, with Max Johnson, their backup, has their best drive of the game. Scored touchdown. I know it was still a game afterwards because of the fumble, but it never felt really like Auburn was going to do it. That was my turning point.
Yeah, I was kind of getting nervous there in the fourth quarter.
There was some nerves just because we've been there. Bye. I heard It's TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate everybody listening in this morning, having a good old time. I believe we have Tom Hart on the hotline. Let's check in with our buddy, Mr. Hart. Tom, good morning, buddy.
Hey, good morning. How are we doing today?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. I'm just was driving to get my coffee this morning, and Jimbo was standing in the right lane, so I had to weave around him.
Hey, I didn't recognize it during the play. Afterwards, when I hit Twitter, I was like, oh, that he could have been a legend. I mean, they would have canceled him. Could you imagine if he made the tackle?
Yeah, that's happened before, and the coach lost his job. But yeah. Kind of like Woody Hayes punching a Clemson player back in the day. I think it was a Clemson player. I'd never seen that before. And now we learn the true value of the get back coach, right? Like that guy who's usually like the strength and conditioning guy or assistant strength and conditioning guy who's always pulling at the coach's belt. He looks kind of obnoxious. Like he's the guy at the bar on Friday night that's like, no, dude, you don't need another beer. Like, bro, I'm fine. Like I know what I'm doing. But incredibly valuable. Incredibly.
In the Miami game, he would have made the tackle. He would have showed the team, this is how you wrap up, guys. I'm just being honest.
Hey, listen, I mean, what a difference in passing defense, right? I mean, I know Miami quarterback versus where Auburn is right now are vastly different, opposite ends of the spectrum, but incredible improvement in just a few weeks. And what we know about the SEC and what other teams have done and haven't done, I mean, A&M's right there. They got everything right in front of them. So kudos. That was a huge win and a statement win. Good teams take average teams, and Auburn might prove to be a bad team. We don't know. I mean, better catch them now because I think Hugh Freeze is going to have them winning in short order. But they take care of them. They dismiss them. They take all the drama out of it. And I thought that's what A&M did Saturday afternoon.
I know you didn't watch the game with a fine, whatever the term is, but with a microscope, we'll just say. But there are some that are like, man, you made too many mistakes. You kept a really bad Auburn team in the game. And while I agree with that, I do. I mean, I also like, it's an SEC game, man. You win by 17 in an SEC game, you high five and you move on.
You were going to say fine-tooth comb. Do you use a comb or are you just a hand guy?
I'm a hand guy.
Put the product in.
Yeah, I'm a hand guy.
Listen, the poor comb industry has gone down the toilet in the last 20 years, right? I mean, guys don't use combs anymore.
Brushes are moving back up, though. Brushes are back.
Yeah. Brushes are on their way back. Brushes and loofahs. I take you to be a loofah guy.
Oh, no doubt.
The biggest thing I thought for A&M, well, it really hurt to see Connor leave the game before the half, and it did not look like, he could put much weight at all on that ankle. But they have a luxury in having a second string quarterback. I mean, having a competent, I don't even want to call him a backup because Max Johnson has started in this league, and A&M fans know full well, I think, was it 3 years ago when he walked him off at LSU? I mean, like, they know how dangerous he can be. There are a lot of teams in this league. Look at Alabama. Alabama wasn't getting the production they wanted from their first string quarterback. They tried to go to the second and third string. They got nothing. So that's a luxury to be able to go to Max Johnson and have somebody who has big game experience, who has major conference experience to come in and get the job done and shut the door, throw a couple touchdown passes. That's huge for them. And hopefully everybody's healthy and, maybe both guys get some snaps down the road, but that's a luxury most teams can't afford.
Does Max start at Alabama potentially?
Oh man, that's a great question. My first inclination is no, mainly because of what's around him, what would be around him at Alabama. Alabama's offensive line played much better this weekend, but they've still struggled overall, probably a failing grade over the course of the season. He's a guy that, wants to be in the pocket and unleash throws. And Alabama just doesn't have those breakaway receivers, those first-round talent like they've had in the past. By the way, real quick, I was going over some of the stuff from yesterday. How about A-Chain yesterday?
Goodness gracious.
That was amazing. I mean, the only person that had a better night was Travis Kelce, and that has nothing to do with what happened on the field. Good for him.
That's good. Well played, my friend. Now, there was a world where I thought maybe A-Chain would come back. No, he made the right choice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, without a doubt. And it's hard to stand out as a rookie. It's hard to put together games like that. It's hard to early in your career show that you can be the man, but he's playing for a really smart coach down there in Miami. That was I know it was record setting, so I'm not going out on a limb here, but I've never seen anything like that in professional sports, a beatdown like that.
Talking to Tom Hart here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. So, look, I know there's only been, for most teams, one SEC game. But I look at Arkansas as a desperate team. After the loss to BYU, obviously after the loss to LSU, where it was a shootout towards the end, and they played really well, I find them to be a very desperate team entering this game. Do you agree with that?
I don't know about that word choice, because that suggests that it kind of suggests they're not very good, that they're desperate and like clinging to something or trying to find. I think they're a really good team with the most underrated quarterback in the league. But they're, they should be hungry. Like they've got to, maybe desperate does work the more I think about it, David. Maybe you're all over it. They've got to find ways to win games or their season can go downhill really fast. KJ Jefferson, to me, I mean, I don't know why. I've done plenty of their games. Every time I watch him, he impresses me. I don't know why he continues to get overlooked, probably because of the lack of team success, which you certainly can't pinpoint on just the quarterback. But if you took KJ Jefferson, put KJ Jefferson on Alabama right now. I mean, like, he doesn't need elite players around him to be elite himself, which is rare to say about a quarterback. He's big. He can run the ball. He's got a strong arm. He makes good decisions. There aren't a whole lot of quarterbacks like him in college football right now. There's some fun ones to watch. There's no doubt about it, but he's a great player. And I don't know. I mean, I couldn't decide while watching that LSU game, and I didn't watch every single snap, but I couldn't decide if that was LSU kind of playing down to Arkansas's level or Arkansas showing that they could hang with some of the best teams in the country and in the conference. Probably a mix of both, but he's something to worry about. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. The reason I say desperate is that BYU loss, followed by the LSU loss, plus you only play home once in October. That's Mississippi State. Ooh. You've got A&M, Ole Miss, Alabama, all on the road because the neutral site game on the road. And then you get Mississippi State plus on the road in Gainesville. That's a brutal stretch. Brutal stretches for everybody in the SEC, but for where they are, considering where I think A&M is trending, doesn't mean anything until you play, right? But that's more why I'm thinking, like, Sam Pittman, who is beloved, and I love the dude too. Like, this stretch right here could define his time at Arkansas.
Well, I don't think they were aiming for, the college football playoff or thought they had reservations in Atlanta for the SEC championship game. I think they're realistically after losing both coordinators, they kind of knew and where they were from a talent perspective. One of the best players is now playing tight end at South Carolina. I mean, they've lost some offensive weapons over the offseason and through the transfer portal. Here, I had a question for you, though, when I was thinking about this game. I really had my fingers crossed, was hoping our crew would get a chance to call this game because I've never called this game. It always delivers. It's always one of the best games of the day. Weird stuff happens. As a fan base, do you think either fan base would rather have this game at home every other year or happy with going to Jerry World and playing it there?
No, I think the fan base wants to have it back on campus. That's the vibe I get from most people here. I enjoyed the Jerry World experience. It doesn't feel like a college football environment, obviously, because of the stadium situation. But I've never been to Fayetteville, so I'm looking forward to when that does resume back on campus. I think most people want it back on campus, though. That's been my hunch and what people have really expressed to me.
I always prefer on campus. I think that's what makes college football special. It's what makes it stand out. I love the NFL on Sundays and Monday nights and the occasional Thursday, but the passion and pageantry that you get generally, by the way, by taking 100,000 people or 70 or 80 or however many and cramming them into a small town, that's what makes it special to me. We've all lived a big city life at one point or another, but it makes it stand out. I would say, though, that playing this game on a neutral site has probably added to the wackiness of this game over the years, the ability of another team to come back, to grab momentum and come back. Very rarely does the visiting team on the road in the SEC get down 2 touchdowns and then suddenly find momentum and half the stadium's cheering for them, right? So maybe that's added to the drama and how much fun this has been over the last few years. But I'm glad to hear you say that, because I like when people agree with me. I'd put every college game on campus, including the playoffs, up until at least the semifinals. Like, that's embrace what makes you special, and that's what makes college football special.
And I'll give Arkansas this: they travel well for that game. They really do come out there. Let's talk a little LSU, because maybe Florida State's just that good, even though they've had some tight games the last couple of weeks. And LSU is starting to really find themselves, especially on the offensive side.
Yeah, by the way, just of note, one of the biggest wins for the SEC this weekend, one of the biggest plays was Clemson throwing the ball on 3rd and 1 in overtime against Florida State. Incomplete pass, but they made the tackle behind the line of scrimmage, but it allowed Florida State to escape in overtime. Florida State remains undefeated. They remain, if the playoffs started today, Florida State would be in. And that success for FSU kind of helps negate the LSU loss, which, by the way, was a really good game through 3 quarters. And it got sideways at the end, but LSU wasn't outplayed for 4 quarters. They were in that thing. And then some stuff happened in the 4th quarter. There's a lot of, we're talking about maybe the pressure for Arkansas to find some wins. There's a lot of pressure on LSU and Brian Kelly to continue what he started last year, probably a year ahead of schedule. Jay Daniels is a great quarterback. He's an elite quarterback, and he's had multiple wide receivers step up. They finally got their starting running back, and he had a good game this weekend. Not over the top excellent, but a good game. 2 wide receivers go over 100 yards. Thomas and Malik Neighbors, who 2 weeks ago was just unstoppable. So one of the things I was talking to Mississippi State coaches about, Jaden Daniels, they blitz a lot. He has struggled against the blitz historically. And I said, hey, nobody wants to look back at a loss, especially a bad loss like State had a week ago. I said, but did you figure you would have an advantage considering how often you pressure and what Daniels has done against the pressure? And their personnel is kind of in a weird spot. They're not as strong on the back end as they have been historically. And they said, when you pressure Daniels, you're playing with fire. And we knew we had to, take some chances, but he just makes you pay so often with his legs that even though he's not a great passer against pressure, when you bring an extra man, he can still be very dangerous. And that he's a difference maker for that team. And I think, as long as he stays healthy, LSU's going to be favored in every game down the stretch.
It's interesting how Colorado has become such a hot topic for controversy, for that's my guy, that's not my guy. And then, teams are using that as motivation to go after Deion and his group out there. What do you think about Dan Lanning and Oregon just really taking it to prime, and also that speech before the game?
Well, first of all, congrats to Bo Nix for finding a place where he can succeed. And he spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. I saw an interview with him. He said, at Auburn, I wasn't allowed to be myself, because of the external pressures. He said, I was a guy whose dad played there, and all this pressure, and it goes out to Oregon. Nobody really knows who he is. He's having an amazing start to the season. To me, the other impact that we're seeing from Deion Sanders is not just coaches taking it personal, and I don't blame them for taking it personal, but also being willing to take it public, right? There's one thing for it to be personal. There's another thing for it to be public. And Dan Lanning allowed the cameras in his locker room before the game. He knew what he was going to say. And even after he said it, they still allowed it to be aired. That's choosing to make it public. And that's a huge change from where we were even 10 years ago in this sport. And I think Deion Sanders, and the way they have filmed everything since he stepped on campus, from the first day where he said, I'm bringing in Louis, pack your bags and leave, to whatever it was, 80 or 90 guys that were part of that program that won just one game last year. So he's certainly making an impact. I don't know if it's good or bad. I just finished watching the Netflix show, The Wrestlers, whatever it's called. It feels very WWE now. It feels like everything is performative. Everything is done for the cameras. And I think this generation is used to it because they're used to social media and they're used to documenting everything. But I don't know from a leadership standpoint how that's going to play out. And I imagine that there's going to be some programs that lean too hard into that. But listen, you reap what you sow. And I thought Dion said it best afterwards. If he's to be believed, he said, well, you better catch me now. And I believe that his recruiting is going to continue to be really good. But if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. If you're going to give it, you got to be able to take it. And, Oregon ran a fake punt early in that game, up 14-0. Lanning said at halftime, we're not done yet. And they kept piling it on. And it made for great theater. It really did.
Tom, are you sold on Florida yet? I mean, when I say sold, being much better than what most people expected for them this year?
I'm not sold yet. Graham Mertz, from a percentage standpoint, is among the best in the country, leading the SEC. I think he's around 80% completion percentage. They've got skill position players that make plays. ETN is kind of following in his brother's footsteps. I think he's an elite running back. I just don't know if, and from what I was told talking with people in Gainesville early in the season, there wasn't faith that they had SEC caliber talent on that roster. And what I mean, it's not a dig against like ETN. Like obviously that guy is elite, but it's depth, right? It's you get in a situation, your backup cornerback, can he play in this league? Your backup middle linebacker, can he make plays? Your offensive line, your third wide receiver, can he make plays? So I don't know. And I don't know that they've shown that just yet. And I don't know that that's something that you really get tested on until you get, as we are a third of the way through the season, halfway through the season, where the injuries start to pile up or ineffectiveness takes over and another guy gets an opportunity. They're where they want to be. I mean, by the way, Utah, another win for Utah. So that's good for Florida. And I don't ever want to discourage teams from playing big games on the road against non-conference opponents to start the season. Maybe the answer is we need exhibition games. Like you play a preseason game. If they played against Bethune-Cookman the week before the season started or 2 weeks before, they get that out of the way. They go to Utah. They play a little bit better to open the season. But this is the reality we have. It was a tough non-conference loss, and they're in position. I think the biggest wild card, I'm going to see Tennessee firsthand this weekend. Like I want to see what Tennessee is. I want to see where they are, because to me, that's a big part of what could shake out in the East.
Tom, appreciate you, brother. Hope to talk to you soon.
All right, and your hair looks great. So
thank you.
Forget about the combs.
Don't use combs. Brushes are okay. I like a little pomade or a little kind of like a wax, and just mess it up, right?
Yeah, warm it up. Yeah.
Yep, you got it.
Looking good.
Same page. Talk to you soon, bro.
See you, bro.
Later. I just broed him. I apologize for that. Sometimes I just bro people. That's what I do. Right now, we're talking about the Association of Former Students. If your organization or business is looking for an opportunity to engage with Aggies, then you got to check out the Association of Former Students. They bring Aggies of all ages together during events held throughout the year. Marquee events like Aggie Ring Day, All Aggie Hullabaloo, and The Gathering welcome tens of thousands of guests. There are many sponsorship and vendor opportunities available for your brand in front of these attendees. All events offer a wide variety of both digital and in-person options to promote your brand. Options include title sponsoring names, on-site presence, activation, recognition in social media posts, and much, much more. There are also advertising opportunities in both the Texas Aggie Magazine and the Aggie Newsletter, which are seen by more than 230,000 people. Is your business ready to engage with Aggies? Choose a partner with the organization that's supporting the Aggie Network for over 140 years. For more information and options available through the association, please email sponsorships@aggienetwork.com. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Why did I pause? I'm doing the Louis pause. Hey, Louis, you sometimes pause. I do too. You know, you say something, you pause. I want to read this. Where was it? It was on TexAgs.com. By the way, hello to our friends at the CW8, my good buddies there at KBTX. Also, hello to The Zone and TexAgs.com and our YouTube page. Have you liked, comment, or subscribe? You need to subscribe, guys. Let's see what number we're at. 10.9 thousand. I'm disappointed in some of you, right? And I'm really not. I just like to say it out loud. But I know there's a lot of you who don't YouTube it very often. But I'm telling you, we're trying to get those numbers up. Can you go right now and just go subscribe? We've got to get those numbers up. It's going to pay off big dividends for us. But I do want to read this one. So I met several TexAgers. By the way, it was very crowded on the sidelines for the first SEC game of the year. And there was a lot of TexAgers on there. And I met Ty Holden on the YouTube or on the TexAgs chat. He goes, I got to meet Nuño this weekend. He's a class act. But like they said in Roadhouse, I thought he'd be bigger. Well, I'm not a very big guy. Okay, 5'10", 184.
But he's waiting on you to try him.
It depends on the person. Look, I really don't want to fight anybody.
I wish you would. That's
yeah, I do wish somebody would. Like, there's a couple people I wish they would. Like, but I really don't want to. Nobody wants to get hit in the face. Nobody wants to find out, right? But if it happens, thanks to my friends at Brazos Valley MMA, I will take you out, guaranteed. I don't think there's somebody at TexAgs that would survive my guillotine or my, I like the Americana.
Who do you think would give you the best fight, though?
Bronny.
Okay, probably.
Yeah, Bronny. But it would be over. It'd be a wrap. Billy Liucci coming in studio. Let's see what kind of Luch we get today. Are we going to get Luch that's excited about what he saw against Auburn or disappointed about going offsides? We're about to find out. Good morning, not OB, sorry. Good morning, Billy.
I'm in between. In between. Like, I feel great about, you know, I know the reality of this is this. I watched Auburn. I saw the Georgia yesterday was favored by like 14 over Auburn. If you want to win a lot of money, I would say bet Georgia
over.
Cover that, because I watch Auburn's offense and I just couldn't imagine them scoring more than
10,
a touchdown against Georgia. A 10 would shock me, but yeah, maybe they get a turnover and a field goal and they have one touchdown drive, but they're not good. And I was wondering before the season about Auburn. I was wondering, would you want to play them late when you can figure out exactly what they are and then start, you know, you figure out what they are, attrition kicks in on that football team. There's not a lot of depth there, and it kind of catches up to them. But early, does Hugh Freeze have some tricks up his sleeve? They can get some things going in the running game that would be problematic, and are they going to sneak up and upset somebody early? And considering A&M and Auburn's history, we're now, even after yesterday, the home teams in the series are both 2-4. It's 6-6 through 12 years. I was happy to see A&M even that one up. I'm sure the Aggies feel like that series should be a lot more in A&M's favor, and it probably should if you go back and look. This has been a problematic game for A&M when they've been favored and at home. And this A&M team is still, and like a lot of teams in the SEC, vulnerable in enough areas where it scares you. And then when it's a 6-3 game at halftime, David, you're sitting there going, I really think A&M looks like the better team here, even up just 6-3, but you're playing with fire. You're playing with fire here. You're playing with one play, you know, getting the crowd very antsy. We've all been at those sporting events where you can tell, like, the favored home team gets antsy. The team feels that negative energy and that pressure. They start pressing. You know, things weren't coming easy for Connor and the offense in the first half. And then you just don't know what happened. So I thought the way they responded in the second half, and not just the way they responded, but the way they played. I heard OB talking about, well, it was pretty scary there at the end. I don't think it was scary. I think you let them hang around with that fumble, or you go up 20. You go up what at that point? You would have gone up 23 or 27 to 10, depending on how that drive finished.
You're talking about
off.
before the fumble, though?
Before the fumble.
Oh, then it would have been 27-3.
27-3, my bad. Yeah, 24 or 27-3, 23 or 27-3. Probably score again with the way they were moving the ball at that point. You're looking at maybe a 34-3 type game, and that doesn't even count the touchdown that was called back, Edgerrin's TD run. But point being, and by the way, one thing I haven't said about that Edgerrin touchdown that was called back, the hit by Tyreek Chappelle.
Oh, my.
That's real cornerback play, and that's one thing I've been really impressed with the Aggie corners this year, namely he and DeBerry, the physicality we're seeing. So, but I think A&M was that close to blowing it out. And even though they didn't, the second half, 21-7 score. The only score Auburn had was on a ball that was laid on the turf by a true freshman who has yet to learn, like you can't run with the ball out, or when the ride's over, go down. We saw it with Isaiah Spiller. We've seen it with a lot of running backs over the years, very talented running backs. But outside of that play, offensively, the Aggies outscored them 21-0. I think they outgained them in the second half, like 280, roughly. Okay, you don't need to look it up.
Okay.
Roughly 280 to 80.
You see my eyes working.
Yeah, roughly 280 to 88. They outgained them almost 3-1. They outgained them by 200 yards in the second half. They dominated the football game after halftime. So even when Auburn was driving, and I agree with Olin on both of y'all on your turning points, I felt like after that stop and that drive and Max to Jake for the TD, 13-3, Auburn wasn't coming back because you just didn't feel like they could even score two more times. It wasn't over at that point. It was over. Some would say when Amari Daniels had the run, but I would say it was over when Jimbo took that penalty, which I thought was the obvious right call. I didn't think when they declined it at first, I was going, that's a really bad mistake. He might miss the field goal, but he's already made one from that distance. Then you're only up 7 with 5 minutes left. You go 3 and out or even get a first down and then have to punt. Auburn's got plenty of time, and you know those son of a guns are going for 2 with you freeze and nothing to lose. So, but even the nervous part of it, you're up 10. Even the nervous part of it, you're up 10, and they're having to kick a 50-yard field goal to cut it to 7, and their offense hadn't produced a touchdown drive the whole game. And you'd still have to go like 3 and out to avoid that. There was a lot that it was just a little close for comfort is all I would say. It wasn't like they were in jeopardy there losing that game. I didn't feel like. And by the way, Durkin's, I said it yesterday, that defense everyone was crying about where you drop a linebacker out or a D-end out there into coverage, and Malik Silla made the play that essentially kept them from getting into – they tried a quick little throw to get back into field goal range after that penalty. He stuffed it for a 2-yard loss. They have to punt. Really, game was over at that point. So with all that said, I think there was a ton to build on in that second half. A football team that plays like that they can beat Arkansas. They can win a lot of these SEC games, particularly when you get teams like Mississippi State and South Carolina at home at Kyle Field, Alabama at Kyle. Tennessee and Ole Miss do not look like world beaters. There are winnable games in this SEC for that football team. And that football team with Max Johnson or Connor Wigman, there are winnable games in the SEC. Now, what Olin's saying, and I agree with him, I just don't agree with rolling in here cranky as hell on the wins are hard to come by. And, with what we went through last year, by the way, A&M's now won 2 SEC games in a row. They're looking for going, for 3 against Arkansas. They've beaten LSU and Auburn back-to-back now, dating to last year. That doesn't sound like much, but when you remember that A&M was 2-6 in league play a year ago, so they were 1-6 in conference play, lost to LSU and Ole Miss, right, to end the season before. Damn, I'm glad we didn't think of that stat when we did. I think we did, but they were 1-8 in SEC games before playing LSU last year, and they beat them. So they're from 1-8 to 2-0. That does matter. That is something worth mentioning. They're favored to go 3-0 this weekend, 3 in a row, and then they're coming back to Kyle Field to host Bama. So there's some opportunity in front of them, but standing in the way is a very large quarterback who can run and throw and is very dangerous, and standing in the way is a very large head coach who's a big offensive line and loves nasty physical football, and that's what Arkansas does, has typically played against A&M. So it's a tall challenge in front of the Ags Saturday. But what Olin's saying, where I agree with him, mood aside, I like some of the people, I know what they're saying. You open the show on a Monday, it's a 17-point SEC win, and you get the cantankerous one in here ranting and raving. But I agree with his sentiment. By the way, my buddy Ryan, they were in town this weekend, and he met while he was here prior to the game. He not just met, but, got to spend a lot of time with Roman Harper, Jordan Rogers.
Yeah.
He met Tim Tebow.
Cool.
Got to visit with him for a while on Friday. He met Johnny down on the field. The ultimate kind of college football fan experience.
Yeah.
He's an Aggie, grew up an Aggie that ended up going to Ole Miss, playing football there, and got to meet all those people. And on Saturday, and he had mentioned something earlier in the week, met Feinbaum. He had mentioned something earlier on Friday that I thought was kind of just in passing. He's like, man, am I going to get to meet Olin Buchanan? And I didn't think anything of it. And we're walking up the ramp, and he was past us, and I saw Olin and Kirk Bowles after the game. And I said, hey, see who this is? And 2 Heisman winners, SEC Network, none of that. The way he lit up when he saw OB and came down the ramp and told his wife, Carly, like, oh, this is Olin. This is the guy we listen to.
He's a movie star.
This is the guy that says all the inappropriate things that I would say if I was on radio. And, it was like the highlight of the weekend. Now, with that said, I know what Olin was getting at, and he's right from the standpoint of, he wants to see A&M ascend. And I'm not going to say they're right there, but there's an opportunity for this football team.
Yep.
And if that team that played that first half will lose to Arkansas, they will lose to Alabama, they will lose to Tennessee, and they'll be looking at like a 2-6 type of SEC record again, and then there are real problems in College Station. But the team that played that second half, and they weren't perfect. You had the big turnover, but that team that played the second half, you saw the talent on display. You saw the defense getting after it. You saw them just wear down and out physical. You saw the running game get going because they wore Auburn down. You saw Max Johnson throwing the ball down the field to all those weapons, Anias, Evan, the tight ends, Jake Johnson. You saw a really good football team. And so what I'm hearing with OB is true. It's frustration in that it's before you essentially run a play in the game, you have to take a timeout and then get a false start. And then you get down there in the red zone and you get a false start. And you get down there inside the 10-yard line at Miami and you have a 4th and 1 and there's a false start. Those things will cost, some would say they, cost you Miami. Those things will keep you from beating Arkansas. And it might be the difference between going 2-1 in the next 3 and 1-2. And let me tell you, the difference in that is staring at another really bad season or going into the bye week. Even though I know the goal is 3-0, and I know none of those teams, including Bama, who comes to you, are world beaters. But even the difference between 1-2 and 2-1 in these 3, 2-1, you go into the bye and you're coming out with South Carolina at home, and you're looking at, can I win that one? You're a real SEC contender going into the home stretch.
Right.
Because I do think 2 could win it. 2 could get it for you. Maybe you have to beat LSU and go 6-2 and beat them. That might be their second loss in conference or something, but that can get you there. So the margin for error for this team is not, first of all, there's not much left after the Miami loss. Second, they're good, but they're flawed enough, like the rest of the SEC, that you can't make those mistakes and win. So you look at Ole Miss at Alabama, they're in a similar situation. They can't make those mistakes and win. we're sitting here talking up LSU. They almost lost to Arkansas because they made those type mistakes.
Yeah.
And they were that close to losing at home to an unranked team. So, I'll say this. The other thing I've heard all week is since Saturday, man, Arkansas looked really good against LSU. They looked, they're going to shred us. KJ Jefferson's going to, here's the thing. Again, we always look at with the microscope on our own team, put our team under the spotlight. Arkansas, those that cover that team, you know what they're worried about? They're worried about a porous secondary. They're worried about the offensive line. They're worried about penalties hurting the team.
They're bad.
They're worried about protecting Jefferson. Up until Saturday, they were worried about, they just kind of felt inconsistent there. And I'll say this, Nuño, Arkansas and KJ, KJ will play A&M this weekend for as good as he is and has been. He's looking to avoid going 1-3 against the Aggies. So this myth, this theory that he's A&M's kryptonite doesn't mean he can't go out and have a great game Saturday. But the Aggies are 2-1 against KJ Jefferson-led Arkansas teams thus far. So let's lay off the panic button, and let's just say if the Aggies go out and play their game Saturday, there's a reason they're favored by a touchdown in that one.
We got to hit a break. I do want to say this. I think both things can be true. Olin's sentiment.
Yep.
But I am very happy with your backup quarterback leading you to an awesome second half where we saw second half adjustments, where your defense was the story. And they've been the story for the wrong reason too often, and they were the story for the right reason. And that's why I'm happy about it.
They dominated a bad opponent that couldn't throw, and they absolutely dominated them. And that's what you want to do. That's what a good defense would do. And that's what they did.
All right, we'll come back with more. Right now, we're talking Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Go check out the website for the deals. That's where you're going to see their pre-owned, their new vehicles, and see what's on the lot and get a kind of feel for the pricing and what the car looks like and just, the kind of vehicle that your family needs. When you go out there to the lot, you're going to be met by an awesome sales staff. They're going to take amazing care of you. That I can guarantee because I've done it. I had some service done last week. It was incredible. They had a complimentary pickup. They brought us a vehicle to use in the meantime. They took care of our vehicle, brought it right back when it was done, and like nothing happened. Car was driving fantastic. That's what they do at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. That's a service you can expect. And by the way, when I called, they didn't know that I did advertising for them. I just, my wife called, set it all up, and it was good. That's how they take care of you there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Remember, it's not a far drive. We're talking 15 minutes, Brian and Caldwell, short conversation away. But you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with our good friends there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Cole Kubelik is just, every time I try to get him, he's traveling. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. We are talking about a little bit about the Max and Connor situation, Billy. I would love to get into that with you because we're going to probably find out today what Connor's outlook is here for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully it's not too long, but I expect some kind of delay in getting him back.
Yeah.
So that being said,
normally when a quarterback can't go back into a game, he's too hurt to go in, and they're not going to probably be back that next week.
Yep.
For starters. Okay, so I think we'll find out again, and we don't need to speculate too much, but just realistically, we'll find out in a couple hours enough. I would not expect in any world for Connor to be ready to go against Arkansas this weekend. And I think you see enough of those, and Jimbo said the X-rays were negative, and that's really encouraging. I hear people sometimes go, "Those high ankle sprains, sometimes it's better just they break it, you heal quicker." I'm like, I don't remember how many guys I've seen come back same season in that. We were told that about Haynes, he never came back. We were told that about Starkel. Did Starkel return that year or no? I'm trying to think if he did. Maybe he did later in the season. Yeah, UCLA. Maybe he actually did later that year.
Yep.
But it's just, I think with the way the schedule lines up, even if it's a legit, what has become garden variety high ankle sprain, those ones that lag and drag, there's 5 weeks, literally 5 weeks between Auburn and South Carolina. My point is, what I'm saying is following the bye week. So I think, I'm not saying at worst because I don't know what at worst it could always be longer, but if it is like a legitimate high ankle sprain that nags, I could see, you got 3 games in a row here coming up. If it gets to Tennessee and it's kind of like, that's why Max Johnson, that's why you went and recruited him to either win a job or if he didn't, to have this is now 2 years in a row where he hasn't been named a starter and he's been called into action. And last year he did really well. They were desperate for wins, and he got them wins against Miami and against Arkansas and KJ Jefferson. There were 2 quarterbacks in that game. One of them won the game. One of them made a big mistake that cost his team the game. The one that was on the winning side wears number 14 in maroon and white. So I think there's a reason we said A&M had the best 1-2 QB situation in the conference. It's because we believe Connor Wigman had superstar potential.
Yep.
And he was really starting to show that through 3 games. And I think he would have adjusted and had a strong second half as well. But what Max Johnson did, only a guy like Max Johnson could do. Only a quarterback that has started, close to 20 SEC games. Only a quarterback that has beaten teams like Auburn, Florida, Texas A&M. I'm not sure what his record is against Arkansas. But only a guy that threw for 350 yards or whatever it was against Ole Miss a couple of years ago, that's gone and won a game in the swamp, can be called off the bench and on drive 1 and drive 2 throw touchdown passes to break a really close, uncomfortably close game wide open and come in and do it and look really, really good in the process. And that's a guy with his type of experience, his type of maturity. That's why I think they'll be really confident over this next couple weeks or few weeks with Max Johnson as your QB. And then if you're Max, you go, hey, go win these games. Go win these games and play really good football and make there be a decision. If you're playing well and you're rolling and your QB's doing really well in this Petrino offense, go do that. Why not? I think they're in a really nice spot. Max is going to have to play Max Johnson football, though. What made Connor so exciting and so effective early and had people like Tim Tebow and Jordan Rogers this past weekend, just absolutely buzzing about him when I talked to them about what he was doing through, 3 games into this year, 7 games as a starter, was he was very quick to get rid of the football. There wasn't a lot of hesitation in his game, and he wasn't afraid to kind of make some things happen with his feet as well. And Max can do both of those things. And I think if Max will just, see it, get rid of it, not hold on to the ball and take off like he did a couple times on Saturday, like he did against Arkansas last year, I think he can have some big games here, particularly throwing it down and pushing the ball down the field, because I think that's something that he's exceptional at, is throwing that deep ball. And you've got some deep ball receivers there. And I don't know how long Noah's out, but if they could get Noah Thomas back this weekend, that only adds to that element of the game, which I think would be pretty important. If you could have Evan and Noah streaking down the field with Anias and maybe some Moose working in there, and it could be really tough on that Arkansas defense.
All right, let's hit a break. We'll come back with some text messages right now. Billy, I want you to do the Pumpkin Palooza number. Yeah, every time I do it, just
I already counted.
Yeah. I know.
Did you know the number?
I was told it was 18.
No, 18. It was 11.
11. All right, we'll see.
30
All right.
seconds.
I'm going to use, because Pumpkin Palooza's back, by the way, guys, for the 11th year. Head out to Milliken Reserve on October 14th and 15th for Pumpkin Palooza weekend. Cool fall breeze, smell of delicious local eats, and, of course, flying pumpkins. Does that count?
Oh, I'm counting.
Okay, 3. On top of our pumpkin-filled activities, we'll have outdoor adventures and festival classics as well. We have everything from pumpkin chumpkin and great pumpkin games to fishing and face painting. Visit pumpkinpaloozabcs.com for more details out there. And again, they have a lot of great stuff going on. Saturday, October 15th and 14th and 15th out there. You want to see the Pumpkin Palooza Festival. That's on the 14th and 15th, 10 a.m. to 2 o'clock. The Pumpkin Palooza Trail Run, October 14th at 7 a.m. Again, visit pumpkinpaloozabcs.com to learn more and purchase your Pumpkin Palooza tickets. How many?
12, because I counted the first one when you were talking to me, so you bumped it up.
Pumpkin
There's 11
chunkin'.
in that. Pumpkin chunkin', pumpkin chunkin', pumpkin palooza, pumpkin patch, pumpkin filters. Whatever it is you say. I kind of want to go to it. It sounds fun.
It's fun. It's Pumpkin Palooza. We'll be back. All right, we're back. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Got like maybe a minute and a half left. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center where Jared's there with some text messages for the people.
Yeah, we got one on the YouTube page. Matt Tackle says, I am 100% confident in Max's ability to lead the team. The drop-off between Max and Connor is pretty short, and we're still in a good spot.
And look, I don't even know if drop-off is the right word. I think there's just – is it fair to say, Billy, that Connor's is this upside but Max, I mean, throwing the football, he's fantastic. His decision-making, his timing, all that is elite.
Well, he's just calm and he's in control of it. And if there's stretches where it doesn't go well, you feel confident in him just, riding the highs and lows of a football game and understanding that you don't need to let pressure mount. You just keep playing your game and it'll sort itself out. He's just mature. He's mature. He's also very talented.
Yep.
He's a very talented passer, and the dude's a competitor and winner too. That's what's important. The thing they have in common, they've got more in common. They can both do things with their legs better than advertised, but they're also both winners.
Rough. And we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio here with Billy Liucci for the final hour of the program. Can we?
Olin just walked by and side-eyed us in that
Did he give us a look?
damn Hawaiian Magnum PI shirt he's wearing.
Were his shorts really that distract? I know my yoga pants were, because you guys had to make a deal out of it, but were
I didn't notice that. I wasn't watching y'all.
okay.
I just saw when I got there. But what the people don't understand is those pants look like parachute.
No,
pants
they don't.
compared
Those are
to-
the tightest ones I have. No, doubt.
absolutely not.
No.
You wear. I dare.
Not tight at all.
I dare you to wear those dark ones in one day.
These are dark.
No, those aren't the ones.
I have even dark. I have to check. Okay, I'll wear them tomorrow. I'll find them.
They look like leggings. Like if Lululemon made jeans, that's what you were wearing.
Your buddy Johnny Manziel wears the same kind
Yeah,
of jeans.
that's right.
Yeah.
With rips. In
Do you
them.
make fun of him too?
Absolutely.
Do you?
And he makes fun of me right back. He made fun of me about a bad video that I took the other day, and my friend Lauren was like, "You need to record that. It's a cool video." And I take the video, him and his buddies sawing it off, and he says, "Yeah, can you send me that video?" And he goes, "Yeah, that's terrible quality." Like, I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry, social media lord. I'm sorry I didn't." Like I said, it's effing brilliant video actually, and no one else took it. So yeah, we'll do that. But he'll make fun of my goatee. I'll make fun of his poor facial hair choices and tight jeans. Yeah, but also Nuño, we were discussing this because him and his whole crew were tight, skin tight jeans tucked into high tops with rips all in them. And my point to that, and you'll understand this, and younger people, like, I think a lot of the young people at our office would look ridiculous in those kind of pants. You have to just fully commit to it. It can't just be the pants. It's got to be the whole look. It's got to be the hair. It's got to be the jewelries. It's got to be the tats. It's got to be the whole thing. So let me know what else of that package that you present besides the skin tight pants.
Well, so here's my thing.
Congratulations, you wear the same pants as Johnny.
No, I don't have rips.
Okay.
I just wear
You
clothes.
will soon enough.
I wear
Quads will be
clothes.
busting out of those things like the Incredible Hulk.
As I've told you many times, when people pick at you, it's because they're picking at themselves of what they want to be.
Okay. There is some truth to that, except in this instance, I could voluntarily wear tight-fitting jeans.
You could.
Can we come back out of the break to some Conway Twitty tight-fitting jeans?
That was one of my favorite songs.
I ran into a Nuño wearing tight-fitting jeans.
Yeah, I am Mr. Country Music. Hey, let's talk Walter Nolan for a moment. Having a great start to the season. Just what have you seen from Walter and his impact? What, a sack and a half last game, and just being involved in every game?
He is involved in every game.
Well, that was a throwaway line if you ever heard one.
Just being involved in every game.
Hey, no.
No, Walter's, the scary part about Walter Nolan is he's been very active, and there's about 2, 3, 4 plays a game where you go, whoa, who's it? Oh, it's big number 0 there in the middle. His flash plays are as good as anyone on that A&M defense. Probably better. If you say, like, who has the most kind of whoa type plays, I'd probably go Walter Nolan 1.
Shamar?
Well, McKinley Jackson, if you appreciate that rough and tumble between the tackle stuff, like if your scouts are watching,
right?
McKinley's probably 2, and then Shamar Turner. Edgerrin Cooper and Torian York are starting to play.
Yeah, they are.
And I thought they had a terrific game. Saturday, we said they needed to. I think I talked about that with the McKinneys, where Auburn was going to try to get edges. They were going to try to create angles and test the Aggies out on the perimeter. And I thought York and Cooper were really damn good. I think they combined for right around 20 tackles. They're going to have to do that again this week against Jefferson. Chris Russell came in. It's the first time we've seen him make some noise, a sack and a half, and perfect timing because kind of his best game of the year last year came against Arkansas up there, and he gave Jefferson a hard time. So good to see those linebackers progressing and getting better because the Aggies are going to need that. They're going to need that in a big way in terms of run support. But look, this defense has been good. Walter Nolan's been a big part of it. I just think he can do that a lot more. I just think as this year goes on, he can start being really disruptive more on a higher percentage of the plays he's in there. And with that, you get there through confidence, you know? You get there when you get a taste of making big plays, and you want to do that more often. And you start to realize how easy it is for you now versus when you were coming from a small school out in Tennessee, and even though you had 5 stars by your name, you had not seen anywhere close to this level of competition. Now he's seen it for almost, you know, I don't know how many of the games he played in versus missed, but he's essentially seen it for almost 16 games now. He's used to it. And you look at Walter Nolan this year versus the guy that took the field against Arkansas last year, and it should be night and day different. So I think those guys inside are going to be real problems. And we saw 13 David Hicks in there on a key drive there late against Arkansas. That depth, and you're starting to see these guys really come and settle in and start play some outstanding football. I think where I'm going to put the target on this week is going to be those ends. I think if A&M is to beat Arkansas and outscore them, but if A&M is to have a good defensive showing, yeah, there's a world where A&M might outscore Arkansas. You know, like, again, I've talked to some people that are making them out to be world beaters. I talked to someone that sits on this desk from time to time that said, we got no chance against them. I said, well, you also said Auburn would score 45 on us because you get too emotional sometimes. Arkansas is a threat. There is a world where their offense can be slowed down. We've seen it. A&M did it last year for 2.5 quarters of that game after falling way behind early. But at the same time, their defense has given up, 38 and 31? No. 38 and 34 in the last 2 weeks is what Arkansas's defense has given up to a not good BYU team that barely beat Sam and has lost to Kansas, and to LSU, who struggled for half that game to do anything against Florida State and just went through Arkansas like a hot knife through butter. LSU's a good offense, but they carved them up. They could win a shootout, but if they slow down that Arkansas offense at all, I think that's going to be a big win for the Aggies if they can do that. The shootout, you get in that coin flip range. I'm very confident in what Nolan, Jackson, Rakes, Turner when he's inside, you know, when you're going 3 down, DJ Hicks coming in there, Regis. I'm very confident in what those guys do inside. If those ends can have a big game, and I'm talking Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart, I'm talking LT Overton, and then, you know, Silla and White trying to get them after the QB. If those guys play well, I think the Aggies, the A&M defense will have a surprising effort.
Unfortunately, we didn't get to see a lot of the DBs because they didn't throw. And that's an area that that's the next version of growth I want to see, right? We've seen linebacker growth all year long. We've seen the D-line now, at least in one game, get after the quarterback. Now we need to see some forcing of turnovers and some real good coverage.
Yeah, and again, they did not force a turnover again on Saturday, right? They've not been good at all in that department so far. They did have one that was called back that looked like a defensive touchdown. But at the end of the day, the stat sheet says none. They have not done a good job of forcing turnovers. Did Miami have any outside of this fumbled punt return? No. So in 2 games against Power 5 teams, they've not produced a turnover, and they weren't a high turnover producing team in those other 2 either. So it's a concern. You've got to get them. KJ Jefferson will turn the ball over. We saw that last year. We saw that last week. You got to force him to. And, the biggest concern for me on this football team right now, I've got 2 of them, and number one is defensive back, the secondary, and coverage. They're about to be tested. You know, couple of quarterbacks that can really suck you in running the football and throw it right over your head, in especially Jefferson, but also to a lesser extent Milroe, and then Joe Milton, who will the goal will be to throw it over your head all day. So I'm concerned about the secondary. I think we saw some improvement this week, but it's just tough to tell these last 2 weeks because the teams have been so bad. And I'm concerned now about quarterback depth for a few weeks anywhere, a couple weeks, whatever it's going to be, because now you do have one, you know, and you need a healthy Max Johnson for a few weeks. So those, to me, going into week 2 of SEC play, stand out.
Who do you think is the next man up? Is it Marcel Reed? Is it Jalen Henderson? Like, who would be? This week, maybe we'll tell that story. Like,
be interesting to see how far along Marcel Reed is.
Yeah.
And Jalen Henderson has the experience nod there, but Marcel Reed has been so good mentally, picking things up, and he's kind of been on a fast track in terms of understanding Petrino's offense and impressing in that regard. So it would be interesting. I would love to not need to learn that answer, because I love having a veteran like Max Johnson going against, you know. I need to look up Max during this commercial break, or have someone text in, or look right
We
here.
got somebody right here.
I'd like to see if Max Johnson has quarterbacked a team in Knoxville, Tennessee. We know he's played Arkansas. What did Max do in games? What has he done in games against Arkansas at LSU and last year for A&M? I believe he beat Auburn before. So I know he took LSU. It was a bad offensive night for the Tigers, but he had the ball driving with a chance to upset Alabama in Tuscaloosa his last year at LSU. So none of this stuff he's about to see is going to bother him at all or face him at all. So you'd love to see Max in there, obviously, and not find out the answer to the question you just asked.
Yeah, look that up. What does, in your opinion, Arkansas do well offensively this year?
I know the stats. I didn't watch them against the two crappy teams on the schedule. I saw some of that BYU game. I think offensively, they've had questions on the O-line, but they got a really good center there. They've got a couple of good O-linemen, but nothing like they had last season. I think they can still run the football explosively. You saw that last week. Even without Rocket Sanders, they've run the ball explosively.
Mm-hmm.
Forget his name now, but 7 is impressive for them. He runs hard. They always have guys that just run hard. This past weekend, the freshman tight end out of Oklahoma, it's H-A-S-Z. I don't know how you say that in Oklahoman, but they did a really nice job of designing plays for him where he was getting wide open against that LSU defense. He looks really athletic, can run after the catch. They always seem to have tight ends there at Arkansas, dating all the way back to Petrino through Bielema. They just always seem to have tough ones, and they got another one now. But it really, David, the reality is it all revolves around KJ Jefferson. It does. I mean, those receivers can make plays, but a lot of the plays they make are happening when Jefferson feels pressure. He does a great job of kind of getting low and stepping up in that pocket, and then all of a sudden standing tall at 6'5" and firing ropes down the field. That's where he's at his best. But where he also will kill you is if he scrambles and you see this guy that's 250, he'll chew up 10 to 15 yards like that. It feels like in 4 steps,
yeah.
he's 15 yards down the field, and he's tough to tackle. Guys are going to bounce off of him. Pass rushers, defensive ends are going to bounce off of him. But where he kill you is if you get sucked up there and he goes over your head. And it's not that those are great receivers that they have right now. They're not like they've had a couple in the past couple of years there. But they understand. It's kind of like when A&M had Johnny. They understand scramble drill, and they understand that when he breaks contain, go deep.
Right.
And if a DB gets a little too aggressive, and the problem is if you don't get aggressive and you don't help, he's a lot bigger than the Aggie linebackers, and he's much bigger than the DBs. It's very hard to bring him down in space by one guy. So you got the rest of the guys that can't come up to help, and they have to resist that urge. And then he can turn a 5-7 yard gain into 20 like that. So that's it. All revolves around KJ Jefferson. You know, you saw Connor Wigman get hurt last week, and the A&M offense didn't miss a beat. If Jefferson got hurt, Arkansas is a different team with really no chance. They really are not going to be any good at all offensively without him back there.
Here's an interesting stat, I believe. He's been sacked 11 times this year, but in the last 2 weeks against Power 5 teams, BYU 4 times, LSU 4 times.
Yeah.
People have been getting to him.
And the problem is you watch Arkansas, you can get to them. They're not afraid of 2nd and 16, 3rd and 12 because he can just do so much off script. Nothing feels safe against them. Again, though, like I said, the Hogs have had in the last couple of years a lot of games where they haven't been exceptional offensively, even with him.
Right.
It's that's just the reality. So they're still hit or miss. He's one of those guys, though, and that offense is one that you just can't let them get going because they're really momentum-based and they can be hard to stop. Credit A&M for doing so last year, but also Jefferson played a huge role in that with that attempted Superman dive that was run back. Otherwise, I think they're going 3 touchdowns and 4 possessions to open that one. A couple of years ago, you saw them go up 17-0 after 3 possessions. So you have to slow them down early and not let them get momentum.
Right.
Got to get him off the field.
We'll take a look at some of the offensive side of the ball when we come back next on TexAgs Radio. Right now, we're talking Costa Vida. Hopefully, you caught up with them all around campus this past weekend. They were everywhere, right? You had them at the stadium. They were just a great place to get your meal on. Go to South College Station and get some fresh Mex food there at Costa Vida because Holly's done things the right way with the shrimp and taco mango salsa, the tender shrimp that's been caramelized in honey and butter, then balanced with mango and lime. As they say, it's sublime out there. The chips and queso are really, it's the kind of like the thick chip, right? The crunchy thick chip that tastes so good. Fried fresh patch every single day along with their scratch-made queso. Everything there is scratch-made, right? It's fresh Mex done the exact way you want it out there at Costa Vida. Exactly the way you want it because it's fresh and you can taste the difference where every ingredient matters there at Costa Vida. Got to go check it out. It's not a far drive. By the way, students out there, take your student ID, get 15% off. Cannot be combined with other offers out there. Aggie owned and operated, 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Again, that is 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. It's Costa Vida. We are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. We got a couple text messages, followed by some stats, and followed by some other tidbits here to get into. Jared Schultz there. Jared, what do you got for us?
Well, first, we got a text from Richard in College Station just asking about which quarterback will start against Arkansas. That's pretty much a guaranteed Max Johnson at this point. And I have some stats from Max Johnson just across the past couple of years that Billy was talking about. So we started.
Let's get those here in a minute when Billy's here so he can hear it. Let's read another text before Billy walks in.
Being Austin says, Lord have mercy. Nuño's got his blue jeans on. Good country song, too. And then Boses from Katie says, what is happening with Tony Grimes? Why have we not seen him played at all?
He's been nursing an injury. I think it was a hamstring. And, those take a while to get fixed up. Chase in Houston also says,
I think after watching him spin it Saturday, I think the Petrino factor for Max is something that is very underrated at the moment.
Which brings us to the stats of Max, Billy. You looked it up?
That. No, I got texted.
Okay.
So he started every single game in 2021.
Wait.
Huh?
At LSU, 2021, 15 snaps against Arkansas. 2020, 0 snaps against Arkansas. So he was inexperienced against Arkansas at LSU. A&M, 60 snaps. Obviously, the start and finish against Arkansas.
He played decent against Arkansas last year, enough to get the job done. But he's definitely not afraid of the big games. He beat Mississippi State on the road in 2021, threw for 4 touchdowns, and then obviously beat A&M in 2021, throwing 306 yards and 3 touchdowns. So definitely Max, just in general, is prepared for the moment. Still does not have an interception in Aggie uniform. Hopefully that stays. But
interesting. Check him against Auburn at LSU. And I know he beat Florida twice.
He went 26 of 46 for 325 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception against Auburn in 2021.
And then the Ole Miss shootout in 21. That might have been 20.
31-17. That was, I'll check 2020.
That might have been 2020. There was
the Ole Miss shootout was 2021.
2020, yeah.
2020, yeah.
That was 2020 when he threw for 435 yards and 3 touchdowns and a 53-48 win against Ole Miss.
Yeah, and that was 2020. That was a bad LSU team that came in here to Kyle Field, and A&M kind of slogged their way to a 20-7 win. And Max came in that game, and he took over for T.J. Finley, who was really ineffective. Did some nice things in the fourth quarter against a really good Aggie defense. And then later in that season, was thrown for 430 a couple weeks later against Ole Miss. So Max, he's used to not starting a season and coming in and performing well. He came off the bench Saturday, performed well. Again, this is a guy that he doesn't mope. He doesn't sit back and get in his feelings, and he's always ready to go.
He waits for his opportunity.
It stinks for A&M that I said it yesterday. I saw Kellen Mond's parents before the game, and it reminds you, Kellen Mond he lost that job for a minute there in his freshman year. He lost it back to Starkle when Nick came back, but from the time he took over as a starter, I don't think Kellen ever missed a game due to injury, and that is hard to do in the SEC. And A&M was really fortunate to have that, and they haven't had it since, which is why this QB recruiting thing is so damn important, and also how you manage the portal, how you manage QB competitions. All of those things are really, really important, and they're more so important now than ever in the age of the portal.
I know that Jared's got some stats for us to get into. Jared?
So, the Aggie offense, they did have their least productive day of the season on Saturday with 402 total yards. We put up 433 against Miami. But last year against Auburn, we only put up 215 total yards. So we talked about how we need to fix a lot of different things just across all sides of the ball. But how happy would we have been last year to put up 400-plus yards against Auburn? That would have won us the game easily. We averaged 3.4 yards per pass last season against Auburn. So what an improvement offensively.
Well, look, I think the biggest issue was that opening drive, get 7, not 3, and doing more of that, right? The first half felt like a beatdown, yet you only had 6 points to show.
You also, I think, had 6 points on your first 2 drives. That's not 14. That's not 10. But at least A&M's still scoring points, and they're moving the football from the beginning. That tells you they're coming in with a good game plan. They're coming in the right state of mind. They shot themselves in the foot, certainly on one of that first drive. Was it the first one for sure, or was it the second one? But
with the false start?
Yeah.
I think it was the second
I
one.
think you're right. But they're still coming and putting up points in the first couple drives in this one, which you let Auburn hang around in there. But really, if that run back counts, you're up 13-0, not 6-0. And I know that's defense and stuff. But, look, driving down and kicking a field goal on your first possession, it's not perfect world, but there's nothing wrong with that.
And from my numbers, I'm seeing that we've only had one drive this season where we got to the red zone and didn't score at all, and that was a turnover. We're not getting touchdowns every single time, but this season only one time will we not scored in the red zone.
Now, against Arkansas, a high-scoring offense, against Alabama, a better football team, that you're not going to get as many chances on this. This is not Alabama's still not bad defensively. Did you see them just hold? Did you see what they did to Ole Miss? And then against the Tennessee team with Joe Milton and Josh Heupel calling the shots, you better capitalize on scoring opportunities. And when you get inside the red zone, especially that 10-yard line, it's hard enough to come by points against those, against Bama, and hard enough to keep up with these other offenses. You better score. So they've got to get better in that regard. But I will say, to his point, when your bad days are 27 and 400 yards, despite even though you lost your starting quarterback before halftime, and your bad day at Miami was 33 points and 430 yards, somebody will say, well, you were gifted 14. You weren't gifted. Again, you take over. First of all, you earn that break with a pump block. But when you take over inside the 15-yard line, you still got to punch it in for 7.
Yep.
And A&M, when they were given those 2 opportunities, did. That's just part of a football game. So, that's why you consider the defense. If an A&M defense starts a drive inside their own red zone and they hold them to a field goal, that's a massive win, because, you try to do that and keep the other team from getting 7. So I think the offense has been good, but you see the potential for it to be great. And for it to get there, I think what has to happen is that running game continue to evolve. And I think we've seen that these last couple weeks. Le'Veon Moss just about to 100 yards. He and Owens combined for right at 100 last week. This week, Le'Veon went for pretty much 100 by 97, I think, by himself. Then Amari Daniels with that long run. You were 15, 18 yards away from 2 backs going over 100 in that one.
Right.
So, and you had the big play we've been waiting for. You had it twice. Le'Veon had one, and so did Amari. I think Le'Veon's long run might have been 35, 36 yards. Amari had one, so it was good. If that thing gets going, what I don't know, Nuño, is how good is Auburn's defense. And I'm not saying they're great. And we know their offense stinks. And I don't see any way out for that offense this year, despite a couple really, really impressive running backs. How good is their defense? I don't think it's elite, but I mean, that might end up being a pretty good defense.
Sure.
I know their numbers said they were great in the secondary, and their experience up front would tell you that they've got a good D-line. I would say let's let the season play out and see. If Georgia goes out there and hangs 48 on them, maybe not so much. But we do know there's talent on that defense. There's talent in that secondary. They've recruited a lot of talent at Auburn no matter what they go through. They've got players. They always have. They have them when they're really good.
Yep.
They have them when they're really bad. A&M went out against a talented defense, and a defense that through 3, I think, somewhat meaningless games, put up really good numbers, and you torched them through the second half of that one, and you moved the ball to open that game. One thing no one's talking about is in that second quarter where the Aggies really bogged down, how many possessions did they have? Did they have 2? The time of possession was 12 minutes to 3 minutes. So it wasn't like they kind of got off track, but they also it's their own fault sometimes when you go 3 and out. But it wasn't like they really had time to get into a flow. And they got to the break, and they were fortunate to be up, and they regrouped. And Petrino, again, great, I think, halftime adjustments. You know what I like, David, is it was a struggle, and things were tight at halftime. And they went in the locker room, and they didn't come out and try to say, hey, let's establish something. Let's go out there and let's establish the run, or let's be efficient here, and let's just do it. No, they came out of the locker room with a backup QB, and they attacked. And that's what more than anything else offensively.
That's what you liked.
The two things I liked most were the running game's continued evolution and the fact that they came out in a tight game where they were struggling, and instead of trying to kind of work their way out of it, they came out and said, no, we're going at these guys. Let's go. And that's what I loved.
I also want to remind people, let's not forget in Colorado where your starting quarterback goes out, the offense did not move.
Yeah.
Last year in Mississippi State, when Max goes down, the offense wasn't very good after that either. Like, you went with your backup quarterback, who could be a starter, and moved the ball at will when you started that second half.
Yeah.
So
that was fun to see.
All right, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with Around the SEC and more here on TexAgs Radio. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So the inconvenient pothole earlier asked on the YouTube page, hopefully people are liking that page, by the way, or subscribing, to ask for your prediction now that we're 3-1 with Wiggy hurt on the rest of the season. And I don't know if you want to answer it that way, but I'll make a comment. You tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
You still think the chances of winning the games ahead of you with Max are just as, they're still there. Like
Yeah.
I'll let you take it.
Yeah, no. I agree with you. I think the chances are absolutely still there. I think with an ascending Connor Wigman, I would have really loved to have seen what him staying healthy and going into these next 3 weeks could have been. I also think Max Johnson provided a hell of a spark on a day where the offense wasn't moving very well. And I do think there are certain things that I think Max really has the potential to force these safeties to have a problem with Evan Stewart. And if Noah comes back, and obviously he's going to be on a different timetable. Noah was also banged up, and I don't know that he would have played this week. You know, he missed the ULM game, so I don't know if he would have played against Auburn anyway. And then obviously family tragedy, losing his brother. So I just think those, and by the way, if you're on Twitter, I just retweet or quote tweeted, Noah had a great message to all the A&M fans, so go check that out. I think he just posted that here not long ago. In fact, I'll read it since we're sitting here on air. Noah said, I want to thank everyone for the prayer, support, and generosity. These past few days have been hard, but it has been made much easier knowing all the love and support y'all have shown my family and I. So thank you to the friends and family. Your support has been very comforting. And thank you to the 12th man. I haven't been an Aggie for too long, but I definitely feel what it is all about, and I'm grateful to be a part of the Aggie family. So it's a really heartfelt message from number 3 there, so we hope to see him back soon, but, you know, on his time. And I have no idea. That could be this weekend. That could be for Bama. But, again, the weapons they've got at receiver, and also Ja'Day Walker, you know, got banged up too, so we want to hear his status. That's a guy that if he's out there playing Saturday, I could see doing some damage and have Arkansas fans saying, who's that?
Right.
Who's this guy? I was worried about Evan Stewart, Noah Thomas. Who's that guy? And by the way, Max Johnson to Evan Stewart deep down the field is pretty damn exciting. I would love to see one of those breakout Malik Neighbors 200-yard games from number 1. That's not out of the realm of possibility either. So has it changed my thoughts on their record? No, not really, because so much of what I thought, Nuño, had to do with Auburn, but more specifically Arkansas. I just think if this football team with Connor Wigman or Max Johnson, and I'm almost certain it'll be Max this week, if they can beat Arkansas, then I think they have an outstanding chance to beat Alabama at Kyle Field the week prior. I'm not saying it's a sure thing. I mean, look, A&M has not played to the level where you just go, Bama can't beat them at Kyle Field. I mean, Bama's struggling. They can't beat this A&M team at Kyle. Of course they can. You know, people forget they were leading Texas in the fourth quarter with no answer at QB, with major issues on the O-line. They beat Ole Miss where they pulled away in the second half because on the strength of a really good defense. But I think an A&M team that beats Arkansas with Connor or Max taking the field against Bama will have an excellent chance, a realistic chance to win. I don't say excellent, have a realistic chance to beat the Tide. So to me, that doesn't matter who was at QB in that one. I think the key is the win over Arkansas and the team-wide confidence that comes with that fan base confidence, the atmosphere at Kyle, what it would be like with a 2-0 SEC A&M team playing host to the Crimson Tide. So much hinges right now to me on that Arkansas game.
Yeah. Now, Jared, I know you had some stats you were going to get into with us. You want to hit those now?
Yeah, I was just going to talk a little bit about the rushing game. On paper, it looks like the Aggies did run incredibly because we had 6.3 yards per rush. But aside from those big plays, the 79-yard run and the 36-yard run, the rushing attack struggled a little bit. We kind of averaged around 3.1 yards per carry. We had 33 total rushes for 209 yards, but then 31 carries for 94 for the rest. So outside of those really big plays that obviously add up and are very, very important, it seemed like the consistency of the running game sometimes lacked at times. I think if we can get that down for Arkansas, that would really just kind of have a consistent 4, 5, 6-yard runs rather than having 35-yard run and then a 1 yard and then another 1 yard.
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying. You're absolutely right.
But trending in the right area.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, you're absolutely right. They have got to do a better job in short yardage, and I see way too many guys getting their butts whipped on short yardage runs, getting whipped, and guys in the backfield and running backs not able to so much as see a hole and make a cut before they get to the line of scrimmage. They've been, I think, pretty bad. And even when they convert that yard or two, it's barely. It's like from sideline level, you're having to hear the crowd to tell if they got it, and you're having to watch the sticks to see if they start moving them because it's never definitive or decisive. Not never, but usually. So, yeah, they've got to do a better job of short yards. Those linemen need to just kind of bow their necks and say, this is man snap right here. Play like grown men out there and take, I think more, not pride, not like you're showing that, but take more of just a tough guy mentality, like, screw this, we're getting this yard. And you're not, and do what you're supposed to assignment-wise, too. Don't let guys fly them. Tight ends have to do a better job of that, too. I think Max Wright's doing a nice job of blocking. I don't love what I've seen at the position as a whole when they try to block, to the point that I was talking to Hunter yesterday had a point, an old tight end, of like, hey, sometimes if you want to buy time for the QB and help, like, if you want to go too tight, fine, but make Crown over one of them. Let him stay in there and block as a tight end, but a blocking tight end.
Blocking tight end.
And they've done that in some goal line or short yardage packages, where they've had kind of a third tackle. But I'd like to see just something more out of the tight ends. I think they're hurting in the running game too. But that short yardage, they've got to get better at. But like you said, David, it's progressing. You saw them wear down an opponent the other day. That's why Amari Daniels had a massive hole on that play. Max Wright with a great block. He had a massive hole. When Le'Veon Moss broke that 35-yard run, that was a huge hole there. We weren't even seeing that prior. So that's why I think it's coming. I think that the O-line is better. Had they been better at pass pro lately than they have, in run blocking? But I think it's improving, and it's getting better. There's a part of me, and I don't know this, and I'd like to ask, but there's a part of me that thinks their blocking schemes are, for whatever reason, I feel like the linemen at times look a little confused by it. And I wonder how complicated they are compared to other offenses, other programs, other, I'm trying to see. I look at a team that sometimes it's not just one guy kind of changes play to play, but you see guys that sometimes I don't feel like they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing there. And I don't know if it just seems like there's a little bit of hesitation or pause. And I wonder if they're overly complicating things, if there's any kind of, lane that they could simplify a little bit, or are we too late into that 4 games in? So I something to ask Steve and Seth on Friday.
Well, and I feel like we talked about, and we got to hit a break here in a second, but the run game, run blocking better. The pass blocking, outside of obvious the injury and some other plays, I think that looks to be better, because it didn't feel like our quarterbacks were under as much duress as often, although when they were under duress, they were certainly under duress.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with some final thoughts, some final text messages, plus, of course, around the SEC next on TexAgs Radio. We're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Look at that little drink situation you have developed. That. What is this about?
Well, I don't know if you could see it up close there,
I can
but
see
we've
it.
got it. You can go look them up on Facebook. Web Designs. I think it's incredible. I'm looking at his page right here. So you got the A&M logo in the state of Texas here, and then on the back, he brought it. I ran into him Saturday at Chimmy's. Saw him at tailgate one of the earlier games, and ran into him at Chimmy's post game.
Little TexAgs love there.
TexAgs on the back. I mean, I'm going to leave this here, so this will be my cup when we come in. So it's not. So we got everything covered here. But yeah, if you want to get some engraving done, check out Web Designs. His page has some really cool. I'm looking at it right now. Some really cool A&M personalized. You can personalize it. You can do logos like this. I think there's a lot. He does them not mass produced, just by hand, and it's a lot goes into it. He was just explaining to us. How about? And so yeah, we got
our friends.
We
at
got
Yeti.
the Pintail Hunting Club over here. Turn that one around. Yeti Pintail Hunting Club. That's I love the white with the silver like that too. By the way, I'm just gonna start collecting cups here. This is Bucky's, so Aggie related as well.
Just Aggies everywhere.
There you go.
Aggies on Aggies. What did you learn about Bama this weekend, or did you learn more about Ole Miss?
I think I learned. I thought Ole Miss's defense looked a little better, which makes me still think Alabama's offense isn't that good. Because since when does Ole Miss's defense look good?
Yeah,
I think maybe a couple of years ago when A&M played against them and DJ Durkin, but not often. And and it was still a struggle for Bama. They still didn't. People are going kind of what we said about A&M in that second half, and you're just hoping that's a launching off point. But the Aggie offense has looked better than the Bama offense to this point.
for sure.
I mean, look, I know Bama was playing Texas, and they got a lot of talent on defense. But Bama's offense looked every bit as bad trying to figure out their quarterback thing against South Florida too.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it wasn't Milroe, and he probably could have done a little more than those other yahoos, but they still couldn't block South Florida, and the play calling seemed ragged, and they couldn't figure it out. So maybe they got some things going offensively, but I think it had more to do with the Bama defense is still good. And, I think Sark out-schemed Kevin Steele and had them kind of running in circles in that one. But I think the Bama defense is still good. And I learned more about Ole Miss. That's the first game they've been tested. And what was the final score there?
24-10.
They scored 10 points.
It was 6-0 at the half, by the way.
They scored one touchdown. So, I'm not – was it 6-0?
Sorry, 7-6.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, 7-6, sorry.
But still, I think Alabama's offense isn't that good, and I think Ole Miss, while Jackson Dart and Judkins and that offense are scary with Kiffin, and I still think they run into a good defense, and there's a good chance they won't do a lot.
Right.
And I know they lit A&M up last year. That wasn't a good A&M defense. Historically, a lot under Kiffin, when they run into a good defense, they won't do a lot. And I think that's still the case. I don't think anything's changed. So the question is, when A&M goes out to Oxford later this year, will they bring a good defense with them? Because if they do, they'll have a great chance to win.
Yep. Did you learn much about LSU? Because we've examined the Arkansas angle of that.
They believe, and when they get confident, they're tough. I still think their secondary is not good, and that's going to be problematic for them, right? Their secondary is not good there in Baton Rouge, and that's something we don't say very often. Malik Neighbors is unreal, and he was about that close. He was essentially 1 foot in the portal. That was the behind-the-scenes thing going on a lot, and it wasn't a well-kept secret at all in college football that Malik Neighbors was about to be gone. I'm sure he got quite an NIL set up to stay. So did Xavier Worthy at Texas. That's happened a time or two with Aggie players as well over the last couple of years. It is what it is, but you imagine them without him right now because he's been elite. He's been really good, and Jaden Daniels loves getting that ball to him. They look like their running game's getting going. Look, they look to me like the best team in the West, second best team in the SEC right now, and I don't think that's even up for debate. But With that said, they got dusted by a Florida State team that's had a couple of very close calls since. They got dusted by them in the second half, and they barely beat an Arkansas team that a week earlier BYU beat. So there's no one that looks great in the SEC right now outside of Georgia, but even Georgia's been slow starting enough to where you go, hey, on a bad Saturday, somebody could catch them.
All right. So what about South Carolina? They beat Mississippi State, who's not a good Mississippi State. They go to Tennessee this weekend, and then they host Florida. They might be a little bit better than I thought they were going to be.
It's weird. They look. Leggett 17 is a freaking problem. Yeah. He is a problem. Spencer Rattler is dealing. Rattler's really good, but they're still going to have issues up front against a good defense. They're going to have issues establishing a running game. They're really bad running the football. It's going to be hard for that to be sustainable over a course of an SEC season where they're not going to have their ups and downs.
Thank you, Billy.
All right, Nuño.
Appreciate you. Thanks to Tom Hart for joining the show, OB as well. Tomorrow on the program, we'll have Jamie McCoy, Jamie Morrison, the KPTX Roundtable, Jordan Pugh, Chuck Barrett talks a little Arkansas with us. Thanks so much for watching and listening. We will catch up with you mañana.